In fact, now they've actually named a building at the CIA headquarters after George Bush.
Herbert Walker Bush, when he was in his earlier days, had served as chief of the CIA. Now, some people think in that capacity he was bound to have known about what was going on ufologically at the agency. If he did, it still probably won't ever be disclosed until after he's long gone, just like the other president. People did write to the agency, by the way, probably when he was serving there. They would send Freedom of Information requests to the agency for any UFO material in its possession, say 900 pages worth and counting. They claim they no longer look into the subject, but how many Americans today are going to accept out of hand such a claim as that?
However, little evidence can actually link President Bush to UFOs.
For example, when I wrote the Bush Library, I asked them about UFO documents. They said they only had one UFO document.
And there are no public documents linking George Bush Sr. to UFOs, but I think there's very little doubt in any researcher's mind that this man knew a lot about the topic.
The answer may lie beneath some of the most heavily blacked out government documents, recently declassified from a number of military agencies. To many UFO researchers, George H. Bush and members of his staff, including Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld, was the power team who kept the UFO files closely guarded within military and intelligence circles.
George Bush is a man who, by all accounts, knows a lot of what's going on in, let's call it, the secret world. That is the world behind the presidency, the world of real power and wealth.
He's a guy that behind the scenes, he's got oil money, all the right connections, and if you want to know what's going on, George Bush will know what's going on. He's the guy.
As far as I know, an alien spacecraft did not crash in Roswell, New Mexico in 1947.
William Jefferson Clinton's presidential archives contain extensive records pertaining to UFOs, from Roswell to alleged close encounters.
I would say that if UFOs are cards, Clinton is the royal flush. I mean, Clinton was into UFOs big time. The Clintons have said that the library in Little Rock has got a lot of windows, it's got a lot of glass, because they wanted to show that it was an open administration. It's just a gold mine for a researcher.
I think Clinton, on the one hand, did more than any other president to get classified material declassified. And he did more to open up government disclosure than any other president, as far as I know.
Bill Clinton is another president who had a publicly stated interest in the topic of UFOs and wasn't afraid to say so from time to time publicly.
He would talk about Social Security.
I mean, I saw a survey the other day that said that a lot of people in their 20s thought it was more likely that they would see a UFO than that they would ever draw Social Security.
So, of course, every time they're trying to push Social Security, the president, they go to this little funny thing that they stick in the speech. And Clinton used it 8 times.
Yet many researchers believe the Clinton White House was sympathetic about the need to disclose secret UFO files. Perhaps President Clinton's most impressive comment regarding UFOs was delivered during a speech on November 30th, 1995.
When a presidential speech is written, it is not just something the guy makes up. This is something that will take days, weeks, months to put together. It will be vetted by everybody. Something that's in a presidential speech is there for a reason. So Bill Clinton is making up a peace speech in front of 80,000 people in Belfast, Northern Ireland. He stands up, and in this speech, he's talking about kids, and he reads a letter from Ryan. And he said, Ryan, if you're out in the audience today, here's the answer to your question.
If the United States Air Force did recover alien bodies, they didn't tell me about it either, and I want to know, I want to know, I want to know.
This is the part that the press all over America played. The second part of the statement is what I believe is a challenge, a shot across the bow to the military. He said, but if they did recover alien bodies, they didn't tell me about it either, and I want to know. And when you look at the first Roswell report that was put out by the Air Force in 1994, 1995, it doesn't talk about the bodies.
When we return, all the president's men go on high alert when a UFO approaches the White House.
That's good. How are you? Good to see you, sir.
If you're elected president, will you finally trust the people enough to tell them about UFOs, what the story is? Half the public believes that they are real. Would you finally tell us what the hell's going on?
Sure, I will.
According to some UFO researchers, George Walker Bush, the 43rd President of the United States, has reconstituted his father's powerful White House staff, partially to maintain a grip on UFO secrecy.
Two big ones, Cheney, Rumsfeld, people that have always been considered by ufology to be people who have the right connections, who probably are in the know.
Regarding the administration of George W. Bush, it's unclear how much this man knows about the topic of UFOs. There are many who argue that the Vice President, Dick Cheney, is the man on the spot here in relation to this matter.
On April 11, 2001, presidential UFO researcher Grant Cameron was able to query Vice President Dick Cheney on UFO disclosure. Cameron knew he'd have to ask pertinent questions.
Have you seen a UFO? Who cares? What do you think about UFOs? Who cares? The important question is, have you been briefed? Did someone walk in your office one day, get you to sign a piece of paper acknowledging that you've been briefed on the subject? And if we can show that the president has been briefed on the subject of UFOs, it would show that not only does it exist, but it's an important subject. I did manage to get the question asked to Dick Cheney. He was on a radio talk show in Washington, D.C. on the Diana Rehm show, and I was the first caller up. I called in and I said to him, and my question was, Mr. Cheney.
Since the statement made by George Bush last July, there's been a vicious rumor circulating in the UFO community that you've been read into the UFO program. So my question to you is, in any of your government jobs, have you ever been briefed on the subject of UFOs? And if you have, when was it and what were you told?
Well, if I had been briefed on that, I'm sure it was probably classified and I couldn't talk about it.
And it stunned me. It was significant because, first of all, he basically stated it would probably be classified and stated I wouldn't be talking about it, which means they're going to continue to keep it secret. And he basically acknowledged that, yes, he's in the loop, and yes, there is something to this. It's secret, and it's important.
The issue of government disclosure on UFOs as they relate to national security issues has long been debated.
The chief executive either knows or should know what the inner sanctum of official UFO research is all about. The question is, why can't we get more information from the White House? And I don't know the answer to that.
The politics of disclosure about UFO reality is, I can think, only would be a nightmare for any president of the United States. It's like being a little bit pregnant. You can't do a little bit of disclosure. It won't sell.
There's always some idea that some office somewhere is accumulating all this data and all that. But again, you would have to know who's doing it. This gives a lot of ground to conspiracy theorists.
I think presidents all recognize that presidents come and go. They're short-lived when it comes to the Washington establishment. Intelligence agencies go on forever. So I think keeping the status quo about UFOs is the easiest way for all of them to behave.
It really is a situation where the people, ordinary people, have got to recognize that it's in their interest to have disclosure on UFOs, really for their survival of the system of government that we all grew up believing we had. A government of the people, by the people, for the people. And disclosure is a critical way in attaining that, because it is the opening up of a huge part of our history that has been denied to us for 60 years. That's a big deal.
And how much has really changed in the days since FDR was president? With the advances in technology and security, unidentified flying objects are still seen as a credible threat to the White House and the president.
Well, Leon, a report came in late this morning that an unidentified aircraft had entered a restricted area. Folks at the White House took it very seriously.
Come on, go, let's go.
April 27, 2005. Radar spotted an unidentified flying object over the White House.
The alert that an unidentified aircraft had violated a no-fly zone caused a whirlwind of activity at the White House. As the Secret Service jumped into action, sharpshooters took their position and agents rushed to clear the area.
President Bush and Vice President Cheney were hurried into underground bunkers. Security forces responded to a perceived threat with pandemonium, strikingly similar to the confusion of the troops who defended against an unidentified flying object in 1942.
Well, what sparked all of this? According to the Department of Homeland Security, it was just a blip on the radar screen, no aircraft.
Buried deep within ancient texts remain codes yet to be broken. Clouded in mystery, these cryptic messages continue to raise the question: are the visions of our past predicting the future? Decoding the Past, the new series next on the History Channel.